This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome to a stunning sunrise here at Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi sands. It is a beautiful morning, nice and crisp and cool out, and you can see it looks like we're in for an absolute treat of a day today with lots of exciting things coming. My name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide on safari here this morning. Behind the camera we have Mpo and we are really hoping that with this gorgeous sunrise and with the beautiful crisp weather, no breeze, that we're going to try and find you some cats this morning. We'll see how it goes. I don't know if we're actually going to bump into any, but we're definitely going to try our hardest to find some for you. So if you listen, you can actually hear a bit of the dawn chorus still. There's lots of birds out this morning celebrating a bit of the warmer weather. So this morning it's supposed to get to around 23 degrees Celsius here. We do have a slight chance of rain later on, so you can see that cloud bank building. But hopefully that's a promising day for all of the animals. We'd love to hear from you this morning, so if you have any questions or comments, please send them to us. We'd love to hear them and give you some lovely answers. So you can find us at #WildEarth on Twitter, at FC on YouTube, or if you're under the age of 18, you can pop us an email on kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. You can also register on the WildEarth website, head over to the live safari page, and you can submit your questions there. We are really looking forward to hearing from you. I still have the lucky feeling in me, and I feel like it's definitely going to be a very successful day. Neil, I agree. It's a gorgeous sunrise, especially with that cloud bank moving in the front. It's quite a serious cloud bank building up there after a very clear starry night. So I definitely think we might get a little bit of a sprinkling of rain later. But I think it's also the first morning in a while that we have not had a very intense wind. Although that being said, you can actually see the cloud bank moving. Have a look at how it's blowing across the sunrise there. Absolutely beautiful. It's definitely going to be a lovely day here, I think. I know that there are going to be a lot of birds out today. I know that with this weather that we have, that I think a lot of the predators are going to be moving nice and early this morning. And I'm very hopeful that we're going to find a lot of interesting things today, whether they're big or small. There really are a lot of birds out already. Alright, so I'm very excited to see what today holds. So I'm going to get going on a Bumble to see what I can find. But why don't we have a look at what our weather is doing in our other locations as well.
"13 degrees, 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Goodness gracious, that is chilly. But bright and beautiful this morning, and we are busy watching that glorious sunrise as it rolls up into the sky. It's turning from golden to a beautiful bright yellow. Hi everyone, my name is Mike Anderson. Behind the camera is BK, and this is Eco-Training's Pridelands Conservancy. And we, this morning, have decided that we are going to be looking at tracks and signs of animals and other things, all the things actually, whatever we can find, but mostly tracks and signs. So we're looking at tracks just like what's underneath us here. Lots and lots of tracks, as you can. Well, that's mostly BK and Maya's tracks, but but this track over here is something really cool. Some of you who've been watching the show for a while might recognize this as a giraffe track, and so I've given this one to you for free. But after this, I'm going to be quizzing you so that you tell me what animals these tracks belong to. But those of you who've been watching for a while might know this particular animal that made this track. His name is TDH, or Tall, Dark and Handsome, a beautiful, huge giraffe bull who is almost completely black in color with a very pale face, and he's a gorgeous, gorgeous giraffe. But yeah, so we're going to be mostly walking around this area, the northern part of Pridelands, along roads and open patches, looking for interesting tracks and signs, maybe referring back to a few different species of tree and insect that I've recently learnt from you, the viewers. So please, it's always really lovely to have you contacting us, sending us questions, comments, queries, all that kind of stuff. We love it. So please don't forget to do that on the WildEarth Explorers page, or if you're a youngster, a little young gun, send your questions to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. We'd love to hear from you. But yes, so this, as I said, beautiful giraffe track. And then from something that has one of the largest tracks, we'll come to something which has one of the absolutely smallest tracks. Where did I see it now? Where was it? There it is over there. Look, just over here. Do you see this tiny track? That's the end of my stick. And there's a very small, rather blunt looking track over here. I'm going to leave you guys with this question. What animal has made this track? I will put my thumb there as a reference. Oh, and I've got an average sized thumb. Maybe I should have put something that's more easily recognizable. What animal has made this track? Okay, I'm going to zoom out a little bit for you there, BK. So here's one track. Or is it two? It's actually two tracks. Here's two tracks, and here's two tracks over here, and here's two tracks over there. That's okay. And there's two tracks there, and two tracks there, and two tracks there. So it was walking along this road. Think of where we are. There's a little bit of a drainage line / thicket over here. So there's some rather thick areas. Think about whether it's a cat-like, antelope, all sorts of things. And I want you guys to tell me what animal that was. I'm not going to give away any more. That's it. We're done. We're done with that. Instructor Mike is back. Instructor Mike is going to be teaching today, and he wants you to get 100% full marks on all of your questions. Okay, so once again, let's just show you the track again. What track is this? Oh, Megan, that is an excellent suggestion. And a Steenbok track is almost exactly the same size in length. However, a Steenbok track is very, very, very narrow, but it's a wonderful idea. In fact, this is almost like a Steenbok track. It's not a Steenbok track, but this one has, it's the same animal, but it's just doing a much, much narrower track. It's only registering a little bit, so it's not a Steenbok. Safari Kitty, you are spectacularly correct. Well done. Yes, it's a duiker. Duikers like these thick environments. They like to be here in these thick areas because that's where they can hide the best. Steenbok like much more open areas where there's mostly just grass because of their color as well. Nice gray color helps them to blend in the shadows. And they register their track, which means the front foot the back foot steps directly on the front foot. So now it's not easy to tell on this one. It's not easy to tell on this one. But back here, there is a very good example. Yeah, here. So you can see the front foot stepped there and the back foot stepped directly on the front foot. That's called registering, and common duiker and other animals that live in thickets do this so that wherever their front foot steps, they can see and they know they're not making noise, and the back foot steps directly on that. So well done. I'm very impressed. It's a great start to the morning. I want to see absolutely all of you getting your notes books out and jotting down some notes, because we will be doing a theory review at the end, okay? We will only do it on what we see. Oh, okay, so here we go. There's another track over here. Now we're in business. Okay, BK, come on over here. Okay, wait. Won't do it just yet. We'll wait a little bit, and we will let you internalize that information before we move on to the next track.
So I have continued on to a bumble, and I'm currently almost in the northwestern corner of Djuma. And what I'm hoping for here is either to bump into a leopard, maybe somebody like Tortoise Pan who frequents this area, or even possibly if there are any lions around. I also feel like this is a particularly lucky area for me, because this is where I met the pack of wild dogs, the Ottawa Sands pack. So I'm just taking it really nice and slow, looking for tracks. And just checking all around me for any movements, any sounds. So far there are a lot of impala tracks, which is very fitting because it's Impala Road. So what I'm really hoping for is that I find some nice fresh tracks that I can follow. I definitely feel like there's a lot in store today. Probably one of the best things about being out here is you just never know what you're going to find. You never know where it'll be, you never know what will surprise you, whether it's big or small. Definitely the best way to start my day.
Well, we've come down towards Twin Dams just to see if anything's happening down in this area. So far, nothing really to speak of other than a rather chilly dam and a very blue sky and sunshine, which is all good. I think it's going to be a hot day today. Anyway, my name is Tristan. On camera, I've got Morgan. You well this morning, Morgan?
Very well.
Yeah, wonderful, other than the sun that is burning the retinas of my eyes. Didn't park very well today for my own health. But yeah, we are down in the south. We're going to be checking south and east. I want to go try head to Chitwa. Semba was seen last night around Chitwa Dam, so I'm going to go try and see if he's still hanging about. There's also an Ellie somewhere. Oh, there it is. I can actually see it. It's coming across from the other side of the drainage line. Looks like a big bull that's moving in our direction. So I think if we're just patient and we sit for a little bit, it should come across. You see it there, Morgan? Under the big jackalberry on the other side there.
Yeah.
Oh. Doesn't look like any of the tuskers that we've been seeing, but does look like a large bull elephant. I wonder if it's one of the ones we had at Chitwa the other day. Mina, I think you and for most of us, it's been a bit dry on the Djuma cat front. Although, I mean, I say that, but yesterday we had Tavangumi. I just couldn't show you guys because, well, you know, it's the way things roll out sometimes. So hopefully we'll get some. I know Mulawati was seen briefly on the dam cam where he came in for a drink. So they're around. It's just a matter of finding them again and finding signal as well. Look at that trunk. Silly early. I wonder why they're so besotted with the jackalberries at the moment. I need to do a bit of research about this. What's in jackalberry leaves that they are craving? Can you see it there, Morgan? You might notice it to the right. Yeah, there somewhere. You can just see this trunk sticking up every now and then. Are you alright there, buddy? All good. Okay, wonderful. I was just checking. I'm making Morgan do all kinds of weird and wonderful contortions to be able to film this. The Ellie's now disappeared. I think it's probably dropping down into the riverbed. What I'm hoping is that he's going to come up the bank and come and drink. So if we're just patient and sit here, he should come for a little morning drink. It's still quite cool, but you know, he's close enough to water that maybe, just maybe, he'll stop by. Might not be a long drink, but there will be at least some of... Okay, tough. I like sunrise safaris because I like the tracking side of it. You know that things have moved during the night, and so it's the best time to look for tracks and actually track them. But actually the light I prefer in the afternoon. So if I like selfishly from a photographic point of view, I like taking photos more in this afternoon light. But yeah, both are nice. I like being out, so it doesn't really bother me if it's morning or afternoon. Both have got their own little pros and cons. But yeah, I like I say, from a tracking point of view, I like the sunrise. It's nice. You come out and it's like a new day and feels like there's a lot more possibility and you don't quite know what you're going to find or where. Whereas in the afternoons, it's often a case of you following up on leads that you got from the morning or sightings that you had in the morning. It's not nearly as kind of unknown as what you have in the morning drives. So... yeah, but I like both. Really, they both have, like I say, a pros and con for me. And nowadays, you know, I've done a fair amount of sunrise drives, so, you know, the early mornings don't bother me that much either. James, you're saying you hope we get to see Timber this morning. It'd be nice. He was heading east, which is a little bit tricky because that means he could have gone into all those blocks that are big and thick on the eastern side of Chitwa. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a struggle, and we know that he can sometimes be a little elusive, although last night he looked as though he was super chilled from the photos. So we'll see. Let's see how we go, and maybe we'll find him. I'm sure he's the reason why Marips and Shasha are wary of Chitwa Dam these days and not just staying there. He's much bigger than the two of them, and he's got a bit of presence to him. So I wonder if he's just not kind of pressurizing them a little bit to move, and he's actually there more often than we think. You know, and kind of hanging around. So we'll kind of go scratch and see what we get. Obviously, there's also always a chance for Marips in Torchwood on the eastern side. I did get an update from one of the Chitwa guides saying that they heard a lion roaring somewhere kind of on the Djuma side, north of their camp. But it's a cold morning, so I'm just wondering how far north. I know that there was reports of dark mane somewhere around the gate, but that's very far from Chitwa, so they shouldn't really hear that from the camp, which begs the question as to who's roaring down this side. So we will have a little look for that too. So lots of options this morning. Feels like it's going to be a good day, and it feels like it's going to get hot quickly today, which is a little bit of a change from the last few days that we've had with wind and quite sort of overcast cold weather until late in the morning. Oh, well, there went half a tree. I don't know if you heard the crack from that elephant over the branch. Maybe let's try and see if we can get this guy on camera properly. All right. Also heard quite a few hyenas calling from inside Little Gowrie. It seems like the Djuma clan must have a den that's moved somewhere in that side. But it's fresh at Twin Dams this morning. Always one of the coldest places on the reserve. thought it was going to be hot today, so I went the shorts route, and I'm not saying I'm regretting it, but it certainly is cooler than I thought it would be. All right, Morgan, let me find you a nice little gap here for your elephant. I think somewhere here we should be able to see him quite nicely. We just move our little nose in along the bank here. There we go. Is it that same big bull we had at Chitwa? It looks like it might be him. It's quite short tusks. We had one at Chitwa the other day that was quite... not the group of 4, there was another one that we had. I think it's him. Lots of bull elephants around. So difficult to keep tab on all of them. I'm a bit sad that our big elephant with the tusks went into Manyeleti yesterday afternoon, apparently. I was kind of hoping he was going to stay around for a little longer. But such is the life of bull elephants, is that they don't typically stick around all that long. They got big distances to roam, big home ranges. So it's kind of quite fleeting of them coming in and out. They don't hang around for, all the year in the same place. The size of the branch that he's got. And it is peaceful. It's actually a nice little chance for us maybe just to sit quietly and enjoy the dawn chorus and the sound of this early bull feeding with that beautiful backlight that is coming through. It almost doesn't look like Djuma when you see him on the banks of the Milawati like that. Pretty, isn't it? Lots of birds calling as well. Chinspot batters, bruru, fork-tailed drongos, puffbacker just now. Like I say, it was a nice time of the day just to sit and listen and enjoy. And the scene that we have this morning is pretty with that ellie on the amongst the green vegetation. It makes a nice change from all the brown grass and dry, dead things that we've been seeing in most of the landscapes of late. Very, very, very peaceful. Nice. All right. Well, we'll sit here a little bit longer. It's not a bad time to be sitting stationary and just listening. Maybe that lion will roar again and we can get a better idea of where the Chitwa guys heard it. So we'll just be patient and spend some time with this little eddy.
Free diving is the purest way to experience the great African sea forest. Silently gliding through the long kelp fronds allows you to reconnect with nature and explore this enchanted world. Sea Forest is a brand new daily experience coming soon on the WildEarth channel. You will explore an underwater forest live from Cape Town, while a team of naturalists explain what we are seeing.
Like trees in a forest, these kelp provide food and shelter for many, many species.
Magical encounters with shy marine life, crustaceans, sharks, seals, and so much more will all bring a window of calm into an otherwise chaotic world.
Being nominated to the top 5 and finally being here, for me, it's an achievement. Tracks, I believe I did quite well, and the walk.
And sometimes you often drag their feet forward.
The storytelling as well. So yeah, I think that's where I see my strongest point.
And then, that was the opportunity of the scrappy.
I say the bidding and the call, definitely, for me, it was quite a big challenge. Guiding is not all about the award that we have had, but in sharing the experience and continue to do what we have passion and love.
Something very, very interesting. I didn't plan this, but this is a scene rarely seen. This is what we call a journey of giraffe. So beautiful.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
So I'm sitting with a very well camouflaged Birchall zebra. There's actually 2 females that have been walking along this western boundary. They do both look quite pregnant. You can see she's got a big belly, but it seems like they are very camera shy at the moment. But I'm still very happy because I have not seen many zebras here, and this is my first time actually showing it to you while I've been here, so that's quite amazing. I'm happy I got to see even a glimpse of them. This is not the best terrain for things like zebras, and so every time you see them, it's just wonderful. And as much as a black and white animal should stick out in your mind, it's amazing how much they can actually camouflage. So it's actually a little bit odd that there are only 2 females here. I've been scanning around through the bush and I don't see any other zebras coming along, and I didn't see any tracks of any that had crossed. But you just never know. It does seem like they are on their own though. But still lovely to have seen them a little bit. I think zebras are definitely one of those animals that, you know, they're really, really beautiful. And I think a lot of the time, you know, if you don't get to see them often, it's one of those things that every time you see it, you just have that same childlike excitement. So I'm very happy that I got to see them and show you a glimpse of one. So Djuma, unfortunately, is a little bit, well, unfortunately for the zebras anyway, a little bit thick in vegetation and quite a few hills or crests and dips. And so it's really not prime territory for a dazzle of zebras to be. Zebras definitely need more open plains, wide open spaces with a lot more grass. But still lovely to see them. So I'm actually kind of just checking down along the boundary. I'm hoping I can find some more zebras because that would make me even happier. But what I'm also hoping for is that it's still nice and early and still nice and cool, so there might be some new fresh predator tracks that I can follow. I actually want to head towards a watering hole next and just see if there's anything that's down to the dam. I don't know why, but I had a feeling about this road. It was for the zebras. Because I've only seen, I think, 3 different groups of zebras while I've been here. Alright, so I'm actually coming up towards a bit valley, and so this will be a really, really good area for me to be focusing, because you can imagine if it's quite warm on the tops of the crests, you can see there are no clouds. It's warming up a lot now, and so if it's quite warm up here during the day, and especially now as it gets warmer, animals are naturally going to come right down into the drainage lines. So that's the area that I'm going to be focusing on, specifically looking for predator tracks. The other animals like zebras, giraffes, impalas, kudus, those I'll find pretty much anywhere. It's not necessarily just going to be in a little drainage line or just on top of a crest. They'll be pretty much anywhere this morning because it is such a perfect temperature out. You can see that it is still very, very dry. There is not much greenery in this particular section. And so here you might not find as many of the grazers and browsers. There's a great opportunity to listen to the birds though. You can hear there are quite a few calling now that it's warmed up. Yes, the birds chirping definitely bring a big promise of spring. I can feel the difference. I can see the difference with the light coming up earlier. And there are really a lot more birds active than there were even a week ago. That being said, it is still cool enough that I can see my own breath when I'm breathing. So I think as it warms up, it's just going to get better and better today. Hear white-bellied sunbirds this early in the morning. Unreal. So this is actually one of the few marulas that has not started with tiny little green leaves yet. You can see that branches, especially towards the top, are quite dense with smaller little branches. But most of them have actually started with greenery or little fruits that are still going to grow and ripen. And that just shows me how dry this particular area actually is. And that could be because it's quite a large crest. So any water that falls here is actually just going to naturally So the water naturally kind of just goes back down into the valleys instead of sinking in where it's needed up here. But a tree like that is still perfect for birds, perfect for raptors, and perfect for leopards. Hannah, I do have my own bird lists. I have separated them into a life list, so the number of species I've seen in my life. And then I have a separate list for the different places that I have been and what I have seen there. So everywhere new that I go, if I have a chance to do birding, it will get its own list of what I've seen there. I have not had a chance to do birding in quite a while, quite a few months, so it is lovely for me to be adding to that list again every single day. And it's amazing, you almost forget about some of the beautiful birds that you'd see until you see them and you kind of have that moment of realization as though you've been, kind of woken up and you remember what beautiful birds you hadn't even thought about in months. Really is mind-blowing coming back and kind of just seeing that list grow and grow. I will actually say, so I loved birds from a very young age. With our family, with our family holidays to the Kruger Park, I knew quite a few birds from very early on, but I wouldn't say I was ever an avid birder that, made lists and actively went to look for birds until I actually started training and realized how incredible birding actually is and what an amazing experience it is as well. To be able to go to a specific area and know which birds you want to look out for and go to the areas where you think you're going to find them. And that amazing moment of discovering a new bird to you or adding to your list or getting to spend time with something that you never ever thought you would see. And birds have such incredible details on them, from, the different shapes of the beaks and their functions right the way down to the color of the feathers and, the style of the feet. Everything is so specific. And it's just amazing to be able to do that. I don't know if anyone has their own favorite bird call. If you have your favorite bird call, please let me know what it is. I think I'm quite torn between the memory bank of associating it with a family feeling on holiday and just a really unusual bird call. So I think my favorite family-related bird call is an African scops owl from all the evenings spent in the bush with my family. And my most unusual bird call is a violet-backed starling. Sounds very robotic. But while we have a listen to the bird calls, let's have a look at our upcoming fireside chat that is happening this Sunday.
As WildEarth has shown, a guide is critical to your enjoyment when on safari. Safari Guide of the Year is an annual event which creates awareness for these men and women who dedicate their lives to tourism and wildlife. WildEarth fully supports this initiative that gives more credit to a profession that drives our economy and flies South African flags higher than most. In the lead up to our live award ceremony, where the Safari Guide of the Year 2021 will be crowned, we are inviting all our viewers to join us for a special fireside chat. Open to everyone, this unique event invites some of the top guides in the country to Djuma on the 26th of September, straight after the Sunset Safari.
Don't forget to tune in, that you won't want to miss that. The Safari Guide of the Year competition is amazing, and the competitors are all incredible. A lot of them I've met, or some of them I've met anyway. Definitely worth watching. They've got some really interesting stuff to say. So don't forget, tune in. WildEarth Explorers, you've got to be there or be square. Now we're just walking along this road. We were trying to do some tracks and signs, but our signal was playing some games with us. So now we're just kind of walking and talking, but we're seeing lots of cool bird action now. I don't know if it's just the time of morning, the fact that it's nice and sunny and there's not wind, but there's heaps and heaps of birds all around on this road. I suspect it's also to do with the fact that they've recently dragged the tires on this road, so lots of seeds have been unearthed, but there's tons of birds. There's scimitar bills, which are in the tree. There's white-crested helmet shrikes. There are southern black tits. I can hear one of the smallest birds in South Africa, the grey Pendulum Tit, calling next to us as well, just with a very high-pitched call. It's a gorgeous morning for birding, actually. I wish you could hear what I'm hearing. Just a cacophony of bird noise, which is interesting because when you hear birds, it's beautiful to us. Of course, we love the sound of birds, right? It's melodic, it's tuneful, but actually birds are just screaming at each other the whole time, shouting at each other to get away from my area, or screaming for a female or a male to mate with them. It's just like, it's very aggressive, actually, when you think about what they're actually doing when they're calling in the mornings. But it sounds nice to us. A lot of blue wax bills as well, just down here in front. But no tracks yet that I can see. So as soon as we see another track, I will definitely do another quiz with you. In the meantime, we'll send you over to Tristan.
We are with an Eddie bull. He's come right up to the car. We kind of came around because we were just trying to see if we could get the light a little bit better, because it was starting to get very harsh behind him. The sun is getting very, very bright and kind of whiting it all out. So we came round, we kind of just parked on the edge of the Jackalberry Farm, kind of from where he was feeding. And he's now just come right up to us and is chilling with us at the moment, taking it very, very easy. Again, the bulls at the moment are all just so relaxed. I think it's because there's just no cows around. I can't remember the last herd I saw, proper herd. It's mostly been bulls that have been entertaining us. A magnificent animal, this. I wonder if he's finished with his Jackalberry now. He's been kind of moving about and pulling off the odd branch and picking up grass and those kinds of things, but I suspect that he's now done. He doesn't want any more Jackalberry, even though he hasn't finished the branch that he broke earlier. It's time for a bit of roughage and dry grass. Gregory, we'll start seeing more green vegetation in the Sabi Sands when it rains. Prior to that, we're not going to get any luck. When it starts to rain, then we start to see the green coming through. So, yeah, it's going to be a while, unfortunately, until we get that. It's still dry. So yeah, but it's what is amazing is actually how quickly it comes back. So once you've had a good rain, it can be within 2-3 days you start to see the green coming through in the grass and on the leaves. Just requires a little bit of decent rain. So anything like 20 mils and up should trigger a pretty good amount of green coming through. When that is always variable. Every year it's slightly more variable. It's one of those things where it can be October, it can be November, it can be December. It just depends on weather conditions, and as we know, none of us, even the weathermen, can get the weather right all the time. So just got to kind of roll with it and see what happens. But it should be in the next probably 2-3 months. We should start to see nice green coming through. I think our Ellie bull's off. Morgan, I don't know if you can, while our Ellie bull's moving, if you can just focus in right here. I don't want to get absolutely lambasted by wasps that are on a little nest here, or building a nest. So here on this little common spike thorn that is right next to me, can you see them there? I'll put my finger there just so that you can, there we go. Now, these guys will be a part of the paper wasp family, I think. I'm not sure the exact name for it. A lot of the wasps just have a scientific name. They don't have common names in this area. But you can see there's 2 of them here, and they slowly but surely look like they're building a new little nest to hang out in. Activity of insects will start, and they probably have been so relaxed with us being this close because of how cold it is this morning. Remember, insects struggle in the cold, so I'm sure that's why they're not moving too much. If this had been in the afternoon, I'm pretty sure they would not have been as happy with me sitting where I am right now. Anyway, we'll leave our little wasps and our elephant from large to small. We'll head more east and see what we can find.
Very, very lucky to find an elephant so early in the morning. Definitely a beautiful day for them. I think it is going to get very hot later, so the elephants are going to be moving around a little bit more this morning, getting everything done before the heat really picks up just now. I'm actually bumbling towards a dam to see if there is anything down there. And I'm hoping that there might be something. I have seen some leopard tracks this morning. They look like they may be from yesterday though. I'm crossing out of the boundary towards Arathusa. So I'm hoping for something a little bit more fresh. Very excited to see what's at the dam. I know that the hippo has been here recently but wasn't here yesterday, so maybe he's back. And there might be a good few birds around. So far, only impala tracks on the road here. But that's okay. And some hyena tracks. Let's see what happens at the dam. I can see some impalas in the distance. They must have come down to drink. See what happens.
It's quiz time. So, we found another track. Sorry, we've been struggling. The road we walked on had lots of vehicle tracks, but we've got another one now. Here we've got a rather circular-looking track with a funky little triangle in there. It looks like some sort of geometric, interesting shape. What animal could possibly have created that? Just to give you a hint, it's not an elephant. That's the only hint I'm going to give you, though. That's it. Oh, well, I need to give you the size. The size, roughly size-ish. Okay, that's the roughly size of this creature over here. Okay, it's not particularly huge, not massive. This animal eats lots of grass. In fact, probably mostly grass, to be honest. Doesn't mean to say that it won't often or sometimes eat a leaf, you know. I've many times said giraffes only eat leaves, and then it reaches down and grabs a piece of grass that's off the ground. They always try and make a mockery of me. I don't know why they like to do this. In the area itself, if you scan just over there, Beaks, you can see it's a rather open area. I don't know if you all heard the old man stand over there. It's cold this morning. The joints are not working so well. So you can see it's nice and open. So this animal likes these kind of areas. It prefers these kind of really relatively open areas rather than the thickets, or rather than the thick areas. It was just walking in a pair. There were two of them that were walking together. I can see this track, but there are other tracks past me over there, over there, over there. It's a quiz, everyone. I want you to tell me what it is. I want you to tell me what it is. Send me your comments. Don't leave me hanging here. Otherwise, you'll have sad Mike, and no one likes sad Mike. Everyone likes happy Mike, I think. Anyway. This is a good place. We're going to spend the morning here. I think there's lots of cool tracks and signs in this area. Maybe we've got no comms. Maybe that's why I'm not hearing any questions. Why, Keisha? Why are you so good at this? You are correct. It is a zebra track. That is a zebra. As you can see, it's got just one toe. It's an odd-toed ungulate. It has a triangular pad in the middle there, which, as far as I understand, is called a frog. and it doesn't have a frog underneath its foot. It's just called a frog. And that acts as a shock absorber, and this animal was going in this direction over there. It was heading towards the drainage line, maybe to get some greener grass. Why did the zebra cross the clearing? To get to the green grass on the other side. So it's a zebra. Well done. I'm so proud of you. If you were here right now, I'd give you a crisp high five. But in the meantime, we'll be sending you over to Tessa, who's made her way to a waterhole.
So much fun identifying different tracks. And well done. You got it right. So I'm sitting at Treehouse Dam. I am looking for any signs of anything that might be happening here. It seems like there are a lot of birds calling. There's actually a beautiful blacksmith lapwing that's walking along the bank. And this is the same one that has a nest very, very close to where it's actually walking at the moment. However, I think it's just taking a break from sitting on the nest. So it is warming up substantially, and so a lot of the birds are doing exactly what this lapwing is doing and starting to preen itself, calling to the other birds and starting to look for food. You can hear it is a very busy morning with the birds. So I actually haven't seen another blacksmith lapwing close by in the last few days. Olivia, in the whole Sabi Sands, I'm actually not sure because the size of the whole Sabi Sands combined is over 60,000 hectares. So it would be a lot of dams. If we're looking at Djuma on its own, there are 4 main dams, and then there's some little pans here and there. And if you're looking at kind of the area that Djuma can traverse, then there would be at least 23 or 24. There are quite a lot of dams. So it just depends on the day, you know, which dams are dry, which are drying up, which are still fine. That will be where the animal movement will go. But in the whole Sabi Sands, I'm sure it must be well over 100, if not 200. You can imagine there's a lot of little drainage lines, and so those drainage lines usually lead into a dam somewhere. And those drainage lines are the natural areas where you come out of a crest of a hill and go into the little dip or valley. That would be a drainage line. So I am completely fascinated by the fact that for the last 3 days, this lapwing has been on its own. There has not been a partner. And normally you find them in pairs and they're quite territorial, unless what could be happening is they can actually have multiple broods, so almost like a backup nest. And so you might find there are eggs in one nest that was made first, and this might be a second nest, and maybe they've split up to have a better chance of both surviving. Doesn't happen very often, but it definitely can. Or, you know, maybe something a bit more sad has happened. Maybe something happened to this one's partner. You can see definitely in full finding food mode. Christine, I agree, they are beautiful birds. It's one of those birds that you see it and you can't really ignore it because it is so stark with the black and white markings. And they're always doing something. They're renowned for being quite aggressive birds, and so it's something that you can't really ignore. If they want to be known, they will be known. That's for sure. I know they can actually cause quite a problem on some golf courses because if golfers hit their balls a bit too close to a lapwing's nest, then they actually get mobbed by the lapwings. It can certainly happen out here as well, because you can imagine the eggs are incredibly well camouflaged. They're in kind of yellowy brown color with speckles, so they look like the sand in the rocks, and so it can be very easy to accidentally approach a nest because it is so well camouflaged for survival. You probably don't really want to do that. I can hear a black-crowned chagra in the background. That's the first black-crowned chagra I've heard in a while. Mandy, a fish eagle is your favorite bird call. I think that is a really, really good one. It's a very iconic sound. I know my dad loves a fish eagle's call. And it's just one of those sounds where you know that you're in the bush when you hear it. Really, really beautiful. There are some very intricate and interesting bird calls that you can hear, so it's actually quite tough to choose a favorite, especially if you're looking at the smaller birds, you know. Things like white-bellied sunbirds or anything like that. A crombeck has a very cute call as well, a long-billed crombeck. So there's just so many to choose from, and I tend to gravitate towards the more unusual ones, because most of the bird calls when you're out here sound very, very natural, and then you hear something like the violet-backed starling and it literally sounds like something robotic, something mechanical, and it just is so out of place that it constantly catches my attention. If I hear one, I'll let you know. I haven't heard any yet though today. I actually might not be here yet. But just so unusual in all the different calls. I think the fish eagle is probably one of the only raptors that has quite a beautiful call. A lot of the other raptors sound a bit squeaky. It's not a pretty call, it's more of an abrasive call in the background. So I'm definitely going to spend as much time as I can today at the water holes, and particularly this one because it does seem to be quite active with birds at this point. And hopefully I get to see some good ones.
The WildEarth channel now runs for 24 hours a day and is filled with exciting wildlife experiences for the whole family. In addition to our twice-daily live safaris from Africa, we launched Sea Forest. Free divers explore the great African kelp forest under the water in Cape Town, while naturalists on the surface explain what we are seeing in real time. Our Escape to Nature series features exceptional wildlife footage throughout the day, and here you can immerse yourself in the sights and sounds of nature. And finally, we are launching a brand new penguin experience later this month, where you can follow the lives of a group of African penguins daily and in real time. If you want to join in on these experiences, then head over to wildearth.tv/channel to see where you can watch. Escape to nature with WildEarth.
Civilized to just spend some black rhino tracks. A mother with a calf. The calf tracks are so small There's somewhere here in this area, but it's too dense to walk this way. So we're going to walk around where it's not so dense. Let's hope we get lucky.
And sometimes you often drag their feet forward and deposit the scent mark, which is that what they use to patrol their territory.
We managed to get a glimpse of the black rhino, but for safety reasons, of course, we held back and we walked a different way, but it was such a fantastic experience. We didn't just focus on the big things, because it's not all about the big things. We focused on army ants and lots of dung. Civilized did an incredible job, but it's up to the judges now.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth.
So I'm still sitting at the dam, listening for any birds that are very interesting, but I'm also sitting here because I know that as it starts getting a little bit warmer, animals are going to start coming down towards this watering hole. So instead of just bumbling around, I'm actually just taking a bit of time to give animals the chance to carry on with their normal activities, and hopefully I'm in the right place at the right time. I can actually see there is a small steenbuck that's just started coming down as I said that. And we're going to try and zoom in on it for you. It's actually still standing off at a distance, probably just checking before it comes all the way down. And that's a very smart thing to do, because you never know which other animals might be approaching at the same time as you. And our lapwing is back. So I've actually never ever seen a steenbuck drinking from a waterhole. I've never seen a steenbuck drinking water. And so the reason this steenbuck is here is probably not to come and drink water unless it's absolutely desperate, but rather to get some of the fresher, hopefully new foliage around the dam where there's a bit more water. Where it is feeding at the moment looks incredibly dry though, so I wouldn't be surprised if it comes closer towards the dam at some point. You can see there really is a lot of bird activity though. You can see some doves in the background. The lapwings running around. Yolanda, we actually don't have springbuck here in the Sabi sands. Springbuck actually don't occur here naturally. They occur in more arid areas, so arid is a dry area, and that would be places like the Kalahari where it's desert, or in places like the Eastern Cape where it's also very, very dry. So we actually don't get them here naturally. Our equivalent here is actually the impala. It would be the closest to a springbuck that I can think of here. I actually haven't seen any springbuck in a very long time because we haven't really been able to travel much. So I'd love to be able to go and see one. That dove looks very nervous about drinking. I definitely don't blame it. It's decided against it on that particular spot. It's almost kind of psyching itself up to drink. You can imagine this is probably one of the most nervous an animal would be. Any animal is coming down to a waterhole to drink. It's a very, very vulnerable position, whether you're a bird or an impala or a buffalo. If you've got your head down at the water, you can have a crocodile come at you from the front, but at the same time, while your head is down, you are very vulnerable because you are exposed from behind, and your escape route has to be into the water where there is more potential danger. And so there's always this very interesting kind of, every single animal plays with its own mind a little bit, and you can see it's very nervous, but it needs to drink. But what if something happens, but it still needs to drink? And it's this backwards and forwards that you can see happening with animals. And it's a very interesting time because they are incredibly vulnerable when they do that. Also, the sound of drinking, especially if you have friends around you, like a big herd of impala coming down with lots of you standing close together drinking, it might actually also cover the sounds of a predator approaching from behind. But I think probably the most vulnerable would actually be something like a giraffe. When they drink, it is incredible. I don't know if you've ever seen a giraffe drinking, but it's probably one of the most comical looking poses you'll see in an animal, because the giraffes are so tall that they can't just bend their necks down to drink. They actually have to stand and spread their front legs almost into a half split. So that's incredibly vulnerable, just to get low enough for their head to reach the water. And that's the most vulnerable time in a giraffe's life, other than a newborn. You can see that steenbok is still nice and relaxed. You can hear a woodpecker in the background. Alright, if you're ready for another track quiz, I'm actually going to send you over to Mike, who's definitely ready to have one with you.
It's quiz time. We've got another one for you all. So far you've all done very, very well. Now, this one's going to be a bit trickier. And actually, I think you'll get it. You guys are very impressive, actually. So, there's my thumb. You know what that's for. That's to show the size. So, as you can see, it's around about thumb-sized. Potentially slightly longer than a thumb, but definitely narrower. Very narrow, very, very sharp. And we haven't moved, basically, from where we did the last one, which was the zebra track. So, we're still in that fairly open area. So, think about it. We've got an open area, thumb-sized track, very narrow and sharp. Not really registering, but kind of registering, but not really. It's like semi-registering. You can see there's the front track, there's the back track. But that was just coincidental. That doesn't usually register this animal that much. Maybe a little bit, but not much. Okay. And, well, it's super sharp. Small. One track only. Just one animal was walking here. So what animals do you know that are relatively solitary, maybe in pairs, that like open areas, have a tiny sharp track? Not a big fat blunt track like a duiker would have, but a super thin sharp track. What do you reckon? Just eating mostly, well, also all sorts of things, to be honest. Quite Izzy, you could have, I often mistake this for a bird track, so I 100% see where you're going. It's, however, not a bird track. It has small hoofs, so it kind of looks like a bird track. It looks like 1, 2, 3 sort of toes, and I know that I was saying that it's going to be a tricky one, so maybe you thought it was a trick question. It's not. I'm trying to be as open and honest as possible, giving you all the facts and details. But bird tracks we've seen a lot of bird tracks around here. In fact, there's one bird that looks a lot like that. Now I can't see its track, but there is the coursers, the thickneys, which have a track just like that. And I was looking at thickney tracks. I was going to do a thickney, and I thought, no, I won't do that one. Joy, all the way from Hong Kong. Joy, well done. You're obviously watching and learning, and you've been taking notes because you got it correct. It is a steenbok, absolutely. So look at the environment around us, lots of grass. The drainage line is there, so they might run to drainage lines for shelter, but you can see generally quite nice and open. This is what the steenbok likes because their camouflage is perfect for this environment. they tend to just sit very still and hope the predators don't spot them and walk right past. And then, yes, they do. They have very tiny feet, very sharp tracks. And something that's interesting about steenboks is that they tend to bury their droppings. Now, I haven't seen one, probably because they bury them, so it's difficult to find their droppings. Mike, sometimes you really astound yourself with how silly you can be. But there's the old bandstand. Okay, so this is a really cool area. As you can see, it's nice and sandy. This is an old sodic area. It has tried to be rehabilitated in the past. This is old grazing land where animals are often, or where cattle used to be kept, and they overgrazed it and it became quite barren. So over time, more and more plants and trees are starting to grow and succession is happening. So slowly over time this will turn back into what it was before. And it's a sodic site anyway, so it's never really going to have as much vegetation on it as it would. But well done. Steenbok. Very, very excellent. I'm going to see if I can find that coarser track or thickney. I never know which one is which, to be honest. Bird tracks are not there. See, look over there. This is a, I mean, I think it's a thickney, but it's definitely a bird. Janet, the tracks in this sand can last quite a long time. It all depends on the weather, to be honest, mostly. So these tracks are from last night. You can see nice, crisp, sharp edges on those bird tracks there, but it just takes a small little bit of wind. Watch this. So it's absolutely not windy at all, but look at that track right there. I'm just going to gently, like a soft... Look how much softer the edges look now after this. And imagine a strong wind. One small gust of wind and the track is gone. Sandy soils don't hold the tracks very long, but as long as it's not windy, the tracks can last quite a long time. Some of the larger tracks have been here probably for a couple of weeks, but we've had lots of wind, so smaller tracks that aren't as deep in the sand will disappear quite quickly. Let me find another one. There's got to be more tracks around here. More tracks. Now I need to remember which tracks I've done and which ones I haven't. So this is exactly what we do with our students, by the way, quite often. When we're walking, and like this, we do these field obs, where we have to see whether they have learnt and can practically apply their knowledge that they've learnt. And so we'll literally walk and we'll say, okay, cool, here's a track. Tell me what animal made that. And we'll just circle a track and I'll go and stand a bit to the side. And then they will have to come to me and whisper in my ear or write down on a piece of paper and show me so that no one else can know. And if they get it right, I'll write in my little notebook, correct, yes, and then afterwards I can tell them, give them feedback on it. It's a wonderful way to learn, little mini quizzes. I like mini quizzes. Some people don't like them so much. So this thickney was all over here. I mean, actually I'm so terrible. I don't know if it's a thickney or a courser. They both have tracks that are very incredibly similar. But both of these birds eat seeds. No, they don't. They're insect eaters. Oh, actually, I don't know. I'm going to have to look that up. But anyway, they both are nocturnal, that's for sure. And they walk in these open sandy areas because it's easier for them to spot danger, especially at night, because they're nocturnal. They don't want to be getting into any trouble with the local thugs. Plenty of tracks here. I'm looking for one track in particular that I know I'm going to stump you with. And when I find it, I'm bringing the big guns. But in the meantime, we'll send you over to one of the other feeds whilst I do a bit of digging.
So I have left the dam. I'm back on a bumble looking for animals, and it's warmed up enough that I can take off my gloves and my scarf, so I am happy. Pretty sure that means the animals are going to be happy too, a little bit more active. Maybe the predators, though, might start settling down now. Oop, impalas. Looking very pregnant, which I'm very happy about. I can't wait for baby season. And what I'm actually doing is driving just along the edge of the drainage line that runs south from Treehouse Dam, well, southeast. Very bumpy section. Ooh. I can see a giraffe in the distance. Yay. Let's see if I can find a gap. Right, I'm gonna try and get that giraffe.
Are we live? At that time? No, surely not. Well, anyway, I like the countdown. It makes me feel happy. Hi, everyone. We are looking at another track, and I told you I was going to bring the big guns. What's this? We've got 2 lobes, funky looking toes, squashed toes, with claw marks. This, I would say, is a level 2. No, still a level 1 track, to be honest. It's got most of the evidence there. What's this? Tell me. Tell me what is this? Is it an impala? If someone says impala, I might just walk away. I know that you know what this is. Often walking alone at night, but is also in groups. Likes to steal stuff from our camp. In fact, if you were watching the show yesterday evening, you'd have seen a little scully. Oh, I'm giving it away too much now. Too much. I can't help it. I'm just having so much fun this morning. I like tracking. Tracking is something that the longer you spend in the bush, the more it becomes quite interesting for you. Because on the superficial side, you're like, hold on. Shreya, you are absolutely right. It is a hyena. And you didn't even need me to give you any hints on that. You knew what it was straight off the bat. Unlike the cats have 3 lobes. Hyenas have only 2. And it's got squashed toes. The cats have got nice rounded toes. And the claw marks are quite prominent. And now if this was a muddy area, if it was really soft, squidgy mud, you might find claw marks in a cat track because they need the grip. But hyenas have their claws all the time out. They're not protractable or retractable. They're just there, like runner's studs. Goodness, Malcolm, that's a good question. I can't say I've ever really had to track small animals, but probably, I don't know, like a civet. Let's say like an African civet. They have quite small tracks. The track is probably about the size of a thumb, and we often try and track them. Sometimes we've got another camp, and where we've got a civet who has become very habituated at night. It comes right into the camp and walks all over the place, trying to eat anything that's been dropped by the students when they're eating dinner. And sometimes I'd like to figure out where this civet has come from, like where does it live? So I've tried to track it before. Incredibly unsuccessfully, unfortunately. They are very small tracks, and so when the ground is hard, you see over here the ground is quite hard. So if it walks directly on this patch of ground here, unless it's big and strong and heavy, big and heavy like a hyena leaving its tracks here, we won't see it. So then you might have to see, for like 20 or 30 meters, no track. And then it just takes a long time of trying to figure it out. And tracking is so intuitive. You need to put yourself in the footsteps in the shoes of the animal. Oh wait, animals don't wear shoes, do they? You need to put yourselves into the you need to think like an animal, basically. And sometimes it's not so easy, because what on earth does the civet do if it's in the camp? It looks for food, and then from there it just kind of wanders around. And it's an omnivore, so you can't say it's going to go and eat termites or it's going to go and find fruits. It can eat literally anything. So haven't found it yet, but that's probably about the smallest animal I've ever tried to track. We've also got genets, which are quite habituated in the camps, so they often come at night as well. But that's way too small. I mean, that thing weighs a couple of kilos at the most, so you're not going to be able to track that easily at all. What have we got here? I thought I had a lion track. In fact, I do have a lion track. Very old, though. Very old lion track. But this track is very old, and that animal is probably long gone. But Tessa's got an animal who's right there.
I do indeed have myself a very tall animal over here. It's actually a young male giraffe, and he is moving slowly through the brush and feeding on the different little bush willows. He is moving forward. Let me see if I can get that shot for you. It's actually quite beautiful because the sun is behind him. He's giving us a really stunning silhouette. I'm hoping he goes into an openish area. Stopping in quite a hot spot there. If you ever wanted to see a beautiful profile of a giraffe, there it is. A side-on silhouette. And I definitely don't think this male is very old at all. He's just a few years old, and he's out on his own. So you can see he is being careful. He is stopping to listen in between movements. And he is still a small enough size that the lions would actually go for him. And I'm sure he knows it, which is why he's being so careful. Always loved a giraffe's walk. I'm going to watch him disappear, and then I'm actually going to keep going. I can see there are one or two fork-tailed drongos that are following him. You can just see the flits of movement as he disappears towards the sun. So I am still just next to the drainage line. I wouldn't be surprised if he heads down towards the drainage line just now, just to try and get a little bit of fresh greenery while it's nice and cool in the shade. And then you'll probably find later on, as it gets hotter around lunchtime, he might go to that same water hole that I left and get a drink of water there. Unreal. All right, I'm going to leave him to his breakfast, his little adventure this morning. I'm going to carry on and see what I can find. I'm going to go down into one of the drainage lines just now and drive through the drainage line itself and just see if there is anything that pops there. It's actually that drainage line where his wig is. Oh, he's giving us a clear view. Let's see if I can find a spot. Shreya, male giraffes are born with ossicones that are just a little bit bigger than a female. So actually all baby giraffes have those two little, what look like horns on the top of the head. The only difference is with males, you might find they might be slightly wider apart. It takes time for them to grow bigger and wider. And they're definitely born with a full tuft on top of their heads. So it can be quite difficult when they are young to tell them apart. So I'd say this giraffe is kind of starting to go towards his kind of teenage years for a giraffe, because you can see on the top of his head, just above his eye, is that little bump, and that kind of starts growing from when his testosterone really starts to kick in, and that will keep growing throughout his life as well. It makes his head a lot stronger when he's necking with other giraffes. He's not having to use his tongue a lot this morning. You can see he's found a nice small tree that's got fresh greenery, so it doesn't take a lot of effort to rip the leaves off. But you can see he is still using it just to kind of get some leverage around the branches. I can hear some helmet shrikes and a black-crowned chagra in the background. It just amazes me how active the birds are this morning. So I think this is definitely one of the more interesting animals that you'd find out here. So it's always worth spending time with a giraffe. They are fascinating creatures. Everything from, you know, the adaptations of the tongue right down to how they walk is just so unusual. He's definitely heard something. So you can tell from this giraffe's neck that he is not old enough yet to be fighting other males. And that's because you'll notice his skin is perfectly intact. He doesn't have any scarring, no patches where there have been injuries. Still smooth and beautiful. So when he gets old enough to start necking, that's going to change, because any big impacts from another male giraffe's horns or ossicones would very likely cause a wound, and that will scar and leave a patch that looks like it has no hair. So I'm going to watch him move. Maybe he'll come into an open spot again, but definitely worthwhile spending another minute with him just in case.
The Masai Mara in Kenya is an iconic wilderness filled with life. Its inspirational beauty has captivated our hearts on WildEarth for many years. While this season of the world's greatest migration has been missed, WildEarth is preparing a spectacular comeback in 2022. For the first time ever, WildEarth will be running expeditions to Kenya's Masai Mara throughout the 2022 migration season. Hosted by David Githu and Isaac Rotich, you could be a part of the team that shares the wildebeest migration with the world live on WildEarth's daily safaris. If you're interested, then head over to our website to find out more.
We're in the centre of the reserve. It's a much more open area, so a completely different experience. It's also in the afternoon, so just a little bit hot, shall we say. We're following some lion tracks, and then we found the scat of a lion cub. So we didn't see the lions, but we decided to leave the area. It was getting a bit too dense and a bit too thick. So we've come all the way down to the water hole to have a little break, and then we're going to keep walking and see what else we can find. And TJ himself actually reminded us at the start of the walk that when you're on the vehicle, it's all about observing. But when you're on a walk, it's all about immersing yourself in nature, being part of the ecosystem. And that's exactly what happened today.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is the call of desperation with the cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops! Oof!
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth Daily.
I'm not even going to say any words because this is a tough one, and I want you to prove to me that you know what this is. Actually, no, I have to kind of say something, don't I? I mean, that's the whole point of this thing. I'm pointing stuff out. Okay, so over here. Oh, let me use my left hand. It's going to be easier. Okay, there's a hand to show the size. We've got a foot. We've got some toes. We've got another foot, and we've got some toes. And it's kind of small. Look at the size of my hand. I'm not going to say I've got big hands or small hands. They're kind of like average. Let's call it average-sized hands. So, what is this? What is this thing? Foot, foot. Some people might say hand, hand. Oh, maybe I gave it away too much there. Whoops. But anyway, I'm having a good time this morning, so I'm willing to give you some hints. This creature is classed as an omnivore. Let's say that. We may eat some of the things that this animal eats, but not necessarily. They might live in groups. Probably, like a family group, but maybe not. They potentially have big teeth, very loud. What do you reckon, guys? It's maybe not so easy because the sun is starting to get a bit higher in the sky, so you're not seeing the relief very much. But there's one track here, and I'm just going to draw a line between the two. And there's another track here. One track, another track. Maybe that makes it actually a bit harder. Let me just try and cover this up again. Yeah. Okay. What are we looking at here? There's plenty. So let's give you some hints here. Let's give you some more hints. They were moving in this area, going that way. This is the same animal here. Moving there. Some over here. Ooh! Dina K, you're on the right track. And I kind of, I was very sneaky with you guys because I've shown a small-ish version of this animal. It is not a monkey, though. Oh, I almost gave it away there. It's not a monkey. Vervet monkeys look slightly different, but very, very similar. Very similar. I mean, it's kind of too obvious now, like, you know what it's going to be, but it's not a monkey. Monkeys have both front foot and back foot very long. So if I could say, you see this track over here? That's the back foot, or the backhand, back foot. monkeys have both looking like this, roughly speaking. Just one is a bit smaller. What's the other animal that it could be? The other diurnal primate. James Richard, you absolutely spot on. Of course you know it's a baboon track. It is a young baboon though, quite a small one. Baboons have this thing here. Let me get a little sharp thing. So the baboon front track has this little shape here that looks like a bee. Do you see that? That's the front foot, and that bee tells you it's a baboon. Vervet monkeys is more shaped like a V for vervet monkey. And I must also thank you, James Richard, for your help with that vine-like plant. Remember that we showed you a couple days ago? And I said it's definitely a native because of the way it's growing, but I wasn't sure which one. And it's actually a combretum, or one of the bush willows, and it's called a knobby creeper, which is, if I remember correctly, Combretum mozambicense, the one with the beautiful flowers that was growing on that rocky area. So thanks so much, James, for helping us to find that one. So you see, it's very helpful if you guys at home do get involved in helping us to identify things. I can't carry all my books with me all the time. I've got, a few apps for bird calls and things like that for when I'm walking. But it will be really helpful if you know what something is, or you can just quickly type it into the Google to help us in that moment. It's a great learning experience for everyone involved. So keep it up, and thank you so much. We're going to keep looking for some more tracks. I don't know what else I can show you. You know so much. But we're going to show you in the meantime another show that WildEarth's going to bring you whilst I look for some tracks.
So I am bumbling along, and I was just about to dip into the little drainage line you can see behind this elephant when I bumped into the elephant. And he seems to be enjoying some fresh leaves from the jackalberry tree. And he's doing something very interesting. He's very clever. He stretches up for a branch, breaks it off, and then you can see he's actually standing on it, and then using his trunk to take the leaves off of the branch, and then he leaves the bare branch on the floor and goes back for another one. You can also see a Burchell starling that is hanging around his feet, and it's looking for insects. He is an absolutely beautiful big bull. There he's stretching up again. Listen for the sound. He breaks a piece off. So he's actually in a perfect position right now because he's very close to twin dams, a water hole, and he's got the drainage line to keep him cool for the day and fed as well. Actually looks like he might be going down to the rest of the drainage line while still carrying some of his food. Oh no, just going to break another branch. So now he's resorted to taking smaller little pieces as opposed to the whole branch breaking. And he's actually still busy chewing, and he's already got the next piece of food lined up in his trunk. So what he is doing is maximizing on this nice cool weather while he feeds, because when it gets very hot, his main focus is going to be resting in the shade and flapping his ears so that he can keep himself cool. It is going to be quite a hot day today. He's actually very consistent with his feeding. Bridget, no, an elephant won't usually trumpet when it's happy. It will only ever trumpet when it's upset about something or intimidated. When elephants are happy, they normally rumble. It's that sound that sounds almost like a stomach grumbling, but very loud, very deep. It actually doesn't come from their stomach, it comes from their voice box. And that's normally the sound that they would make when they're happy and communicating to each other. That being said, young elephants in particular, calves maybe under a year old, when they are playing will often trumpet. But it's normally when they're playing and acting aggressive or acting bigger than their size. It might cause a trumpet to slip out every now and then. So it usually comes out, for example, while these Burchell's, starlings and fork-tailed drongos are hopping around the elephant. Baby elephants love chasing birds. And so the little calves will run up to a bird and let out a little trumpet, or maybe if they get a fright from something coming past, then they'll let out a little trumpet. You can see how beautiful this position is for this elephant. Lots and lots and lots of shade. Waikisha, no, elephants don't seem to get full, and that's actually because they've got a very poor digestive system. So on average, everything that an elephant eats, only about 30% will actually be digested. The 60% comes out completely whole. And so because of that, they are constantly putting in large volumes of food to try and get a little bit of nutrients out of it. And it's just this constant loop. It goes in one side, comes out the other, mostly whole. And so you've just got to keep feeding it. So a big bull elephant like this will eat anywhere from 200 to 300 kilograms of food in a 24-hour period. He'll keep feeding even through the night. He'll be walking around and feeding. And it's all just because with such a big body size, you can imagine to get enough nutrients for his system would be a massive task. And because he is so big, his digestive system isn't that good, as opposed to something very small like a steenbok, very small body size, so very easy to get nutrients. And so a steenbok can eat a tiny amount of very high quality food because it has a more advanced digestive system, because it's so small. For such a big animal to develop an enhanced digestive system would not have worked, because then he could not have gotten so big. Energy went to other areas and he adapted in other ways so that he could get big. And so he needs to eat large quantities of low quality food and kind of go through that digestion process very slowly to try and get some of it to actually stay. So the life of an elephant is pretty much eating, drinking, and pooping. It's this constant little chain of events that's happening. Every now and then he'll have a rest. I'm just loving watching, every now and then you can see the drongos coming in, flying down and flying back up. Right, so I'm going to spend as much time as I can with this elephant because it is amazing to be so close to him. And hopefully he might actually come up to the dam later on to drink.
Beautiful, gorgeous patterns all over this wonderful piece of leadwood. Like an intricate artist's abstract design, wood-boring insects have been feeding all over the cambium of this beautiful fallen leadwood, and you can see those glorious patterns that have been created. It's actually wonderful. I'd love to polish one of these one day and just get that patterns to really pop. Now I'll show you where this wood-boring insect was living. So just in this depression in the middle here, the egg was deposited by a beetle of some sort, whichever wood-boring beetle it was. And from there, every time this beetle larvae was feeding, it went out like this and back, out and back, out and back, out and back, always bringing it back to the same central point. And eventually, once it had eaten enough, it pupated in this section over here and eventually burst out of the bark as a fully grown adult insect, leaving behind just these remnants like hieroglyphics in ancient Egypt, or, I don't know, Bushman paintings or ancient rock art found all over the world. This being a leadwood, this might last almost as long, to be honest. That's what I love about leadwoods, and it's why it's my absolute favorite tree, because of these kind of hieroglyphics just like this. In fact, here's a piece of bark that you can actually see where those insects bored their way out or in, depending on which. You can see these tiny little holes there. Those tiny little holes are where the insects then came out from beneath this bark. How fantastic is that? I'll just lift it up just to see if there's anything underneath there. Don't want to spook if there's any insect in there. Doesn't look like it. Looks very dry underneath there. Not much going on, a few grass seeds. Wonderful to find these patterns in the bush.
Well, we have horrible visual, but visual nonetheless, of Marif's. In fact, I think maybe it's the best visual we've ever had of him. We are fighting a battle against gremlins this morning and Signal, and so this is the best I can do. Unfortunately, I have to park in one spot on top of a rock, quite a long way away. What you can see is he's kind of moving his head in the grass. He had an impala kill, whether he killed it himself or Tandi did, I'm not sure. She's not here, no one's seen her, but the hyenas stole it from him and ate it all, and so he's just eating whatever's left there. There must be some scraps. The two hyenas, when I got here, were walking away with bellies that were monstrous. The one was carrying a leg of an impala, so unfortunately he's lost out. I'm going to choose to say that he killed it himself, because otherwise Mom would have been here. If there was hyenas still and you know, they were interacting, she wouldn't have just left. So I suspect that maybe our boy made an impala kill, which wouldn't surprise me. I mean, he's of the right size and he's spending a lot of time on his own, so at some point he's going to get it right and be able to make a kill. So of that size, so hopefully he's got himself something there that he can at least get some reward for his efforts. It looks like he's feeding on something. I mean, I can't see exactly what it is, and can't really make out much of a leopard either, but it is what it is. So, James, as you say, either way, it's very good to have spots, even if they are obscured. Well, exactly. And I think if we're just patient, you never know. We're on first rock at the moment, so he's literally just off the bottom of the rock. So maybe once he's done there and he's finished with eating or something like that, he might come up the rock and come and check out what's going on, and then, you know, we'll have a 10 out of 5 visual of him. But for now, we just need to be a bit patient, and, you know, it's been a bit thin with spots the last couple of days, so it'll be nice just to at least spend a little bit of time with him. The thing is also the update, actually, I was going to say, because I'm quite excited about this, is Kuchava was seen. I know a lot of you have been asking about her, with the cub this morning. So they're in a net, which is a property south of Chitwa, but they're right on apparently on the Mala boundary. So she's kind of keeping them in a drainage line that comes off of the the Mala boundary and into a net, so just north of that. But the cub apparently is doing very well, all is good, so that's pretty good news. I'm excited that she still has one and it's all good. Hopefully at some point she'll bring it on to Chitwa and we'll be able to get a view of it. Still fairly little, that cub, so it'll only, I don't know if it's on meat yet, might just be starting to get its first meaty meals. Mark, I mean, I think he had a substantial kill. It's just, unfortunately, the hyenas have taken most of it. So what you might find he's got there is a leg or a rib bone or a bit of the spine, and he's just trying to get a little bit of meat out of it. Or, by some random miracle, the hyenas ate so much that they just couldn't eat anymore, and there's still a little piece of the carcass left. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. I'm hoping that at some point, if it is like that, that he'll stand up and we'll be able to actually see. But he's definitely feeding on something in there. And you can see the way that head is rocking and turning. It's very diagnostic of a cat that is feeding. Little man, it would be nice if he just stood up a little bit at some point for us to see him. I'm sure he'll, the wind's kicked up a little bit now, so if anything moves, I'm sure he'll pop his head up and we'll be able to see him a little bit better. And see that face that we all love so much. And I'm sure this afternoon, once he's done here, he's going to go back to the dam at Torchwood Camp. It's the only water that's close by from where he is right now. There we go. Hello, boy. Seems like he's got a fairly full tummy, so maybe he did get a nice bit of food in before the hyenas stole it. Yeah. A lot of you often give the hyenas a hard time for it. It's just completely natural what they do. It's not like the hyenas did anything wrong. It's just a shame that if it is a kill that he's made, that he wasn't able to tree it before they got to him. But it's a lesson that he'll learn. You know, as he gets older, he's going to have to start understanding that leaving kills on the ground is going to end up in them being gone. So it will be valuable that he has to go through those lessons at times so that eventually he's able to kind of keep the kills that he makes and be able to feed and get the energy back from the energy he's expended. It's a little bit of extra work to push a carcass up a tree, but in the long run will save him a lot of effort in having to try and fight hyenas off. I'm curious though to know if maybe Thandi was here at some point. Mr. Wild, let's choose to say that, yes, that he's having a good breakfast. Like I say, I have no idea how much there's in that, or that he's eating, or whether it's just a bone or something like that, but let's choose to think that it's a decent bit of meat and that his tummy's nice and full, and that it'll be a little happy Marips that will go and rest somewhere in the shade after this today. It'd be nice, like I say, if he goes towards the dam and we somehow get some signal there. I think probably Tess is going to be better equipped to get signal at the dam, so I'm sure she'll come here this afternoon and see if she can. Although she said to me yesterday she was struggling with it because she came to look for him yesterday. He was seen in a very similar spot yesterday morning, late at around sort of 11. He was seen here. So hopefully he'll kind of move there, and then, like I say, hopefully Tess can get some signal to see him a little bit better than what we are now. But he's coming of age, our little guy. If he has made this kill, then, you know, the time with Thandi really is going to become very short. We already know that it's starting to erode as he starts to get older, so she's going to start not wanting to help out and not want to feed him and come back for him as much. So, you know, it's important that we kind of know that he's able to look after himself. And while I never really doubted it, given, you know, how he is and the multitude of species we've seen him kill already in the form of birds and small mammals, it's nice to see that he can take down bigger animals and therefore kind of feed himself and sustain himself when mom doesn't want to look after him. And it will be interesting to see what's going to happen with these three boys. Shasha, Marips and Semba, they're all just hanging around the same areas, and so at some point it's going to have to give, and some of the boys are going to have to move. We've already seen Shasha as the most far-ranging of them, and it's quite typical what you're seeing from Shasha. So central point where they were kind of born, or natal territory, and then from there they do these like cyclic movements away from that natal territory, and they get bigger and bigger and more and less cyclic as they go. So initially it's like go from, let's say, Chitwa Dam to Gari Dam and then back again, and then it's like they do that loop for a few weeks, and then it starts to go a little bit bigger, and then it starts to change a little bit, and they don't actually go all the way back to Chitwa. They cut and go in a different direction. So like I say, it becomes less circular and centric to one point, as they then eventually find their way and push out until they become territorial. And some of them will be very short little walks, like if you take Hosana for example, straight line from where we used to see him on Djuma to where he is now dominant, or let's call it his furthest eastern boundary that he's dominant on. We're probably looking at about 6 to 7 kilometers. It's not far at all. But other leopards, if you take into account some leopard like Hukumuri, his loops and movement to become territorial took him probably over 400 kilometers. So there's varying degrees of movement. So that's why I say it's going to be really interesting to see where the three boys end up. I think, Tsemba is always going to be the harder of the three to track down because of the fact that he's not as relaxed as Marips and Shasha. But, hopefully he'll end up in a place where people can view him and he'll be good, and hopefully all three of them go to areas that we can at least still follow along and hear their story. The reality is in all likelihood none of them are going to end up actually here on Djuma or Tortured or Buffelshoek as dominant leopards. We've got a lot of leopard males around, and most of them are still young, so I'm pretty sure they're going to distribute. It's just going to be interesting to see which ways they go and where they all settle.
We had a very exciting start to our morning this morning. Today, it's our guided sunrise safari with Mike, and we started by looking at the moon through a telescope, which was incredible. It's been a very different drive from all the other ones, very interactive.
Your pig-eared land is something the Hupus have in common.
Hi. This morning's drive with Mike was thoroughly enjoyable. He really engaged us, but we also did some birding, and I managed to add a few new birds onto my list. Overall, every single experience with all the competitors has been really incredible, but it's up to the judges now.
Delivering 6 hours of HD wildlife content live every day is no small feat. It's a massive team effort, and we all rely on one another. Cam ops have a bit of work to do in the morning. Up nice and early, get all the checks out of the way, and make sure we're ready to go live. Helping others fall in love with nature brings meaning to what I do. It's also a lot of fun.
I think I should definitely consider becoming as comfortable as Mrs. Wig. She just looks so content sitting on her nest this morning. So Mrs. Wig is a spotted eagle owl. This is the nest that she has used for quite a few years apparently. And I can see why. It really is such a tranquil spot. She's nice and warm and toasty in the morning sun at the moment, and she stayed away from the breeze quite successfully too. So what she's doing at the moment, although it looks like she's sleeping, she is actually still listening for any sounds around her that might indicate any potential danger. So something like another bird of prey, a leopard, a hyena. The spot that she has chosen on the edge of the riverbank is quite steep, although it is definitely accessible. From the top you can see the base of the tree behind her. If a hyena or a leopard had to put its nose around there from the top, they would definitely be able to access her and the chicks. And so she's got to be aware of what is around her. I can't wait to see how many chicks there are and to see, how they go. You can imagine it can be very, very difficult to raise chicks in this kind of environment because you just never know what each day is going to hold. You never know who is going to pop up and smell your nest out. So I'm actually quite happy that I get to come here and have a little morning and afternoon catch up with Mrs. Wig every day just to see how she's doing. I actually can't see her partner this morning. He has been here the last 2 days consistently, but this morning I have not spotted him yet, so maybe he's just hiding a little bit or was taking advantage of the beautiful evening we had last night. There was absolutely no moon, the stars were very bright, and it was perfect for hunting. I think Mr. and Mrs. Wig got their name from James Henry. He used to come every day and check on Mrs. Wig on her nest. And I think he actually named them, but I'm not sure why he called her Mrs. Wig. Maybe it's got to do with her hairstyle. It's definitely a great place to be there. I feel like I want to sit here all day and just watch what happens. I'd actually love to see how she reacts if there are predators that move through, because the particular area that we're in, with the drainage line, with a water hole close by, it's a great place for leopards and hyenas in particular. And I'm amazed, it's so hard for owls if you've got a nest on the floor like this. It must be so, so tough to keep that hidden from predators, especially, they can smell her. So I'd love to see how she reacts to kind of a predator walking past. That's why she sits so dead still all the time, to not attract any attention. But I'm going to leave Mrs. Wig to her morning of sunbathing on the nest, and let's head over to Tristan and see if he's managed to find Mariebs.
Well, we're not trying to find him. We've got spot him. It's just trying to, well, we're trying to get him on camera. That's a very different thing entirely to trying to find him. But essentially, he just got up and he walked off to the right to pretty much behind that a little clump of grass and that sort of tall tree with the orange leaves. So where Morgan is focusing now. And I think he's just stopped behind there for now, but there he goes. You see him in the background there of that tree with the orange leaves. He's walking through there. Oh boy, you look like you got a nice full tummy. You think he's just meandering, looking for any scraps anywhere along that area? Hyenas were all over this place and pulling bits everywhere. So I think he's just trying to see if he can find anything. Unfortunately, it looks like he's going to go away from us and further to an area where we just can't get signal. It's getting increasingly frustrating to spend time finding animals and then have to fight with signal. It's been days of it now. And we've now got zero visual, and I can't move because if I move, you will no longer have me. So you know the car on the left there, Morgan?
Yeah.
So he's going to come out in front now there. You should be able to start actually filming him from there. So he's got his nose to the ground, just sniffing, looking for any sign. I mean, the visuals on this is honestly not great, but it's better than no visual of our little star. Yeah. Let's see. He went that way just now, and then he turned and came back towards us, and then back up towards the rocks. So I'm just going to sit patiently and see. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to Tessa in the riverbed.
Good luck, Tristan. You managed to find him again. He's such a beautiful leopard. So I am now continuing on through the drainage line of the dry riverbed just to see if anything else is around. Had some very good luck here already this morning with the elephant and now the owl. I'm just taking it nice and slow. It is definitely still cooler down here in the drainage line than it was up on the bank. It's created a bit of a funnel for the breeze. And so you could see why it would be very attractive to especially some of the bigger animals and especially the predators too. I feel like every time I drive in this riverbed, I'm noticing new things. It's one of my favorite things to do on any safari is to drive through as many riverbeds as I can. It's a great draw factor for animals, but there's just always something new that you're noticing, something beautiful that you didn't notice before. Today there's a particularly large amount of smells, actually. And I think it's because the wind isn't as strong as it has been for the last week, and so the smells aren't just blowing away. Debbie, I think you're asking if we get hornets in South Africa. We do. It's definitely not one of the favorite insects around, as I'm sure you can imagine. But yes, we do get them. I had a question the other day that I was asked if there's anything I'm still kind of afraid of. No, I don't think there was. And then I was sitting and got a wasp that decided to come up and try and climb up my pants, and it reminded me how much I'm slightly terrified of those. So definitely not something to be played around with, although they won't harm you if they don't feel threatened. So I actually just noticed as we were driving a lilac-breasted roller that came up from the sand and has landed beautifully on a perch overhanging the riverbank. And I think it's definitely looking for insects, and what a great place to do it. Lots of insects having to fly across the open area of the drainage line and having to run across the floor too, without any cover. You can actually see there is still quite a wind that's moving that log, that branch. Oh, and there it goes. off to land higher up. That's actually just landed in a massive leadwood tree on the side of the riverbank. But this is why I say there's always something happening. And in fact, a lilac-breasted roller would eat things like hornets, wasps, bees, any of those insects. I haven't noticed any other tracks here. Sandy, a drainage line is just an area where water drains. So what it would mean basically is if there is a small riverbed, that is considered a drainage line because water is draining through that line. So when we say drainage line, we just mean a small riverbed. It's mostly dry at this time of the year. It's very rare that they actually flow. But yeah, that's essentially what a drainage line is. A bigger section would just be a normal riverbed or a river, but the drainage lines are notoriously quite narrow, quite small. So you'd normally find them anywhere between any of the kind of little crests, the natural water flowing areas. And those are actually the areas where people will have built dams. Anywhere that there is a natural flow of water, that's where dam walls are built, and then water is caught in the dam. Right, so I've left the drainage line now, that little riverbed. I'm actually going to keep checking on up towards the next watering hole, and I'm going to kind of stick to the side of the drainage line as I go. Purely because further up that drainage line, it was getting very, very narrow and it gets very thick, and so I don't want to put the equipment through that. I would much rather just drive along the edge. Can't wait for all of the lion's eyes and all of those little flowers to start popping up. Spring can really be the most beautiful time of the year out here, with all the changing colors, from the winter colors going right the way through, from the reds and oranges and browns right up to the bright greens, yellows, and then flowers. You have to try and find you some flowers this morning. If I can find any, especially here along the banks of the river, you might find quite a few. Not that there is currently water flowing in the river, but the soil does hold the water a little bit better because it's lower lying, so anything that falls will slowly seep down and gather or collect there. And that means a lot more of the plants are green down here. So this is actually also a particularly good area for nyalas. And I really, really love spending time with those. I think they are so beautiful. And because they tend to be in smaller groups than the impalas, they can actually be a slightly easier prey species for leopards. It's always good to check very slowly on the edges of a river. Oh, that is actually stunning. Let's see if we can get it. So there's a old community web spider's nest that's just catching the light at the moment, and you can just see the extent of the web at the bottom. There we go. So that clump at the top is where the community web spider's nest is, and then that whole massive web at the bottom is just designed, you can see it's in between two branches, and it's designed to catch any insects that are moving through. This is actually quite a small community web spider's nest. This one I'd say maybe is half the size of my fist. The biggest one I've seen is probably 4 times my fist size. But definitely beautiful to see it in this light. I'd love to see it at night actually when the spiders are active. Right, so it's definitely a good morning for pretty much all of the animals at the moment. You can actually see how that web is blowing ever so slightly in the breeze. And this is a great thing because it means that the animals are not overheating. Although it is warming up nicely, the animals are not overheating. And there should be a lot of insects around, which means more birds. There might be some predators moving around because of the breeze being an advantage to them for hunting. So I still think there's a lot to come today. So community web spiders are actually mostly active at night. And they're definitely very interesting to watch because it's probably one of the only spider species where there are just so many spiders that can live in one place. How beautiful is that with the golden light coming through the back? I really love all the intricate patterns of that catch web at the bottom. Sometimes it's the small things that can make the biggest difference. Right, so I'm still just appreciating this community nest spider web. It's actually very interesting because you can see all the intricate little angles of that catch web. So that catch web is the big section at the bottom. It's got kind of little, it's almost like a fan. It's fanned out in different directions to try and catch as many insects as possible that are flying through. But this has always been one of the most fascinating spiders' webs to me because of how they live in a community. It's not very common for spiders to live in a community like that. Olivia, I think spiders making webs like this would definitely come with practice. They are born with the natural instinct to make a web, and it's not something that they necessarily learn from their parents, because most of the time when a spider hatches, it can probably take care of itself already. And so it'll come with a lot of practice, and it's just a natural instinct. It's not like us where we have to learn how to do everything kind of over time, learning from other people and watching. Spiders just naturally have that instinct. So that's where kind of spiders and insects are a little bit different to the mammals, the reptiles, anything bigger than that, because they're born or they hatch pretty much ready to function most of the time, and they've got a very short lifespan compared to the mammals and birds and things like that. You know, some insects have a lifespan of literally a few days, and some spiders can live a little bit older, you know, maybe a year or so. but it's just something that they naturally are born with the instinct for. Squee Jam, I agree. It's an amazing craftsmanship that's come out of spiders. What's really cool with this particular nest is obviously there are males, there's females, there's young. They live in a community, and so they'll all kind of build this together. It's meant to superficially look like a bird's nest, that top big clump section where they would actually all be living. And this is a particularly small one, so I'd think maybe there might be 20 to 30 spiders in there. The really big ones, you'd probably find well over 100 spiders in that one nest, and they work together to keep that catch web at the bottom intact, because you can imagine, you know, it catches your attention and you can definitely see it in the sun, but if an animal isn't paying attention, it might walk through there and partially destroy parts of the web. So everybody works together to make sure that it stays intact. And what you'll find will happen is, you know, insects during the day would definitely be able to see part of this web, so they'd mostly fly into it at night. Yolanda, there are a few spider species that are venomous and can affect us here. There's not that many in the bush that you would find, but, you know, things that look scarier like baboon spiders, although they would have a painful bite, it wouldn't actually be venomous. It wouldn't be dangerous to us in that sense. You might just get a bit of localized swelling in the area. But then you also get the more venomous ones, like a sac spider, for example, which has venom which eats away at tissue. And so a sac spider bite can actually be lethal. It can be fatal if you don't treat it properly with antibiotics and a proper visit to the doctor early on. But yes, it kind of depends on the spider. It will vary from just a painful bite and some swelling and maybe some marks on your skin, right the way through to completely fatal. So you've just got to kind of go on which spider is biting you. But that being said, spider bites are actually not that common out here. It's not something that you would experience very often. Spiders are not out here to get us. We're way too big to be prey. So the only reason a spider would bite is if it feels that it's threatened. And you'll often find sometimes it's just an accident. You know, kind of sac spiders might live in between your curtain folds in your room or something like that if you live out in the bush. Or occasionally you might find something like a jumping spider in your bed. And so those are when the accidents happen, when you're actually sleeping and don't really know that you've scared a spider. I have been quite unlucky with spider bites. I tend to have bad luck with spiders and scorpions. But that's also because I'm clumsy at the best of times. So if I find one of these tonight, I'll hopefully be able to give you a look at it with the infrared light when the spiders are actually active. They're quite small spiders, but you'll see at night they all come out and they'll be on the outside of that chunky version, or that chunky big section at the top that looks like a bird's nest. And basically what they do is, as moths and insects are flying through, they can't sense the web as much at night as they can during the day, so they might get caught and then they share the meals. It's very interesting. All right, I think I'm going to carry on. Leave this spider web glowing in the light. Certainly very beautiful. Probably not something that you want to walk into when you're on a bushwalk. Not because it's dangerous, but just because that feeling of a spider web on your face is really not great. I have particularly bad luck walking into golden orb web spiders, those big ones. I've done that a good few times in my career. When you're concentrating too hard on tracks or you just don't notice it in between bushes. I was once off-roading for a leopard sighting and I hadn't noticed because I was watching where the leopards were going. I hadn't noticed a golden orb web spider's nest in between two bushes that I was kind of going around to try and find the leopard again, and I drove into it with my face. And I feel really sorry for the spider because she's got to rebuild her web. But I did have a giant golden orb covering my face and then crawling down my chest, and then she disappeared underneath my seat, and I had to try and keep myself calm in front of the guests on the back of my vehicle. Definitely not something I would do again, hopefully. So I'm going to carry on and see what else I can find. I'm now noticing a lot more of these community nest spider webs in this area, so good to know that I'm still in company even when I'm driving in an open area.
I have a degree in environmental planning and development. My passion is outdoor classrooms. We are not only grooming the environmentalists of tomorrow, but tomorrow's leaders as well. My long-term goal is for the people of South Africa to learn how to live sustainably, to be able to look after themselves and the environment. So I hope that through environmental education, we are able to get that message to the future generation of South Africa so that they start now and can continue that good practice in the future. Environmental education is critical so that people can live sustainably in the future. That is my long-term goal.
The scrap here collected a dry grass, put it next to the water hole as the hippo walks down during the warm of the day to drink the water. When the hippo arrives, he saw quite a very nice grass, an area not to resist to rest. And when the hippo went down to drink the water, and when finished the water, he just lied down on the grass. And then,
that was the opportunity of the scrappy.
You know what? Today is my day to pay the revenge.
I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river. It's being washed away, unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that. How beautiful. Look at that. One crossing, two to go.
So I'm actually headed towards another watering hole just to see if there might be anything that's come down, especially because it's actually fairly close to the area where the Talamati's tracks were. So I know that some of the Talamatis have actually moved off into the Manyeleti, which is further north. But because they have been split up, you never know who might be around. It's also worth checking in case, there might be some elephants coming down or even hippos in the water hole that might be active. Alright, so while I head towards the watering hole to see what's there, let me send you over to Tristan, who has just made his way back into Djuma.
We have, unfortunately, we were not winning there, I'm afraid. Marips was milling about at the bottom of those rocks, but we just couldn't get signal right in the positions he was in, and so we left. And then now we had some kudu on a mound, obscured by another million branches. Morgan, given you epic views of animals today, haven't I?
It's world class.
World class. I mean, I've let Morgan really, I haven't pulled out sightings like this in a while. This is cinematography at its best. You might win an Oscar for this, you know that? Or an Emmy. I'm not sure which one yet, but one of them.
Nobel Peace Prize.
Nobel Peace Prize. I was pushing it. I don't think you go so far. But yes, I'm sorry, Morgan, that I have not provided decent visuals for you today. It's our job to provide the cameraman with an opportunity to make something decent out of it. And I feel like I've let you down today, Morgan, so I apologize. Were you excited, though, to see your bandmate?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, good. He was looking very good this morning, wasn't he? Morgan and I did at one point try and go down just to actually see this leopard properly and not see, just spots through long grass at about 6 kilometers away. So it was nice to kind of see him. He's looking fantastic. He's nice and full and round. And he's just basically picking up little bits of bones and meat that is lying all over the place. So he's doing like all these big loops round and round and round and round as he goes and looks. Anyway, our kudu, as you can see, we've got one sentinel on top of the mound. Well, maybe you can see, I'm not sure. There's about 1 million sticks in the way, but there's one kudu on top of the mound and then the rest below. They're starting to seek shade. It's getting warmer. There is a cool breeze that's blowing, but it is getting slowly a lot warmer than it was. And so, yeah, I think you'll find a lot of the animals are going to find shade now, and then this afternoon, I think we'll have a good afternoon. Hopefully the wind just dies a little bit, and then I think things are going to come out and start making their way towards water, and hopefully we'll get some decent stuff. It's nice to have a couple Ellie bulls on the property. They're right down in the south, general direction north, so they should still be around in the afternoon. And then hopefully Marips comes up if he comes up onto those rocks, then it's going to be absolute gold. It's just that he's still down at the bottom, and I don't expect him to come up onto the rocks given the heat that we'll probably have today. So hopefully he doesn't go down into the drainage line and kind of stay there the whole afternoon. Hopefully he goes up onto the rocks and chills there around sunset. We can dream, right, hey Morgan? We can. It'll be very nice if he goes onto the rocks at sunset and sits. There's one rock particularly on that first rock area that if he sits there, it's going to be absolutely unbelievable. So, according to our final control, which is the voice inside our ear, apparently Morgan's camera skills are worth admiring this morning. But while we do that, we have a fireside chat coming up this weekend, and take a look at exactly what we'll be doing.
As WildEarth has shown, a guide is critical to your enjoyment when on safari. Safari Guide of the Year is an annual event which creates awareness for these men and women who dedicate their lives to tourism and wildlife. WildEarth fully supports this initiative that gives more credit to a profession that drives our economy and flies South African flags higher than most. In the lead up to our live award ceremony, where the Safari Guide of the Year 2021 will be crowned, we are inviting all our viewers to join us for a special fireside chat. Open to everyone, this unique event invites some of the top guides in the country to Djuma on the 26th of September, straight after the Sunset Safari.
So I hope you are as excited as I am for this Sunday's fireside chat. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. I can't wait. I can't wait. Some really incredible stuff happening. I am headed to the dam. I'm actually just about to arrive there. So I'm hoping there might be something that's come down. I definitely feel like I jinxed it a little bit this morning by saying that there was no wind. Because there was a breeze earlier, but now it's starting to turn into a full-on forceful wind. Definitely very strange weather for us, and so that's also contributing to predators' movements changing a little bit. Hippo! It's exciting. Let's see if we can... Well, we'll have to get it when it comes back up because it seems like it's gone back down. Right, what have we got this morning? Let's have a look. So there definitely is at least one hippo. Hopefully it comes up soon. But it definitely was up just now. Seems like it's mostly a lot of very active, there we go, very active bird life this morning, which has been a really lovely common theme throughout, actually, for a change. Although it seems even the hippos are a little shy. Maybe it's because the breeze is picking up. But I think while we wait for that hippo to pop back up, let's just listen. It's the best thing when you're at a dam to just spend a little bit of time listening to what else there might be. It can be a great indicator of other things that might be around. I haven't heard anything unusual other than the normal bird calls, the hippos coming up and down in their breathing, and of course a lot of wind. What is interesting is the wind has actually changed direction. For the last week we've had a southeasterly wind blowing. It seems like today it's a northwesterly wind. So it's gone full opposite. So that's definitely also throwing the animals off a bit. They have to adjust to these conditions. You can really hear the wind is picking up a lot. So I think I'm actually going to spend just another 30 seconds or so here just to make sure that there is nothing else that's coming down, and then I'm going to carry on with my bumble, see what else I can find.
Tessa enjoys the hippos and the sounds and the breeze. We're just bumbling, hoping to find any signs of something. I don't know if anyone's driven where we're driving.
So it seems there is a second hippo that has now popped up. I'm not sure where the other two are. They were here yesterday and the day before. Maybe they are just experts at holding their breath for longer. So I think with this wind, it's actually very likely that animals are going to be even more nervous for the rest of today. It feels like this wind has come up out of nowhere. There was just a gentle breeze, nice and calm, animals nice and relaxed. And then all of a sudden, this wind kicked in. And I'm very sure that even the impalas and things are going to be quite skittish now. Definitely still a lot of birds out there, which is great. It means that there is at least still some activity, but that also means that there's extra eyes looking for predators and letting me know if they see anything too. So I actually decided to stay at the dam just a little bit longer. The wind has picked up a lot. And it seems as though some of the birds were actually sounding a little bit alarmed just now. It literally might be because the wind has picked up. But it might be because of a predator, so it's still worthwhile sitting and checking. It is a beautiful place to be sitting. There are definitely worse places one could be, so I'm very, very grateful that I get to sit here. But this wind is definitely going to affect the animals for the rest of today. It came up out of nowhere. Still, yeah, there's a chin spot batis that's not too fazed by it. So at the moment I'm kind of on the northeastern side of Djuma. And I chose to come this way because there has been a lot of tracks and activity recorded in the last few days, just of, you know, the Talamati Pride is split up so much. Some have been on the west, but some have been kind of coming back to the east, and they've been moving around quite a lot, so I was hopeful that they might be around here. Seems like they're not at this waterhole, but there are a lot of places around here that they could go. So it's always worth just sitting and making extra sure that there is nothing. I think that the hippos are definitely trying to hide from the wind. They're up for very, very brief periods and then back down under the water holding their breath. And I think I would be doing exactly the same thing. This wind is icy. I can definitely hear some more birds calling now. Faith, actually, yes, hippos can give birth in water. They can give birth, they won't go to the very deep sections because the little ones can't swim. So they'll actually give birth where it's a little bit shallow and maybe closer to the banks in a quiet section. They can give birth there. And that kind of eases the baby into the idea of water. They can also give birth on land though. But you can imagine for a little baby hippo, if you born straight into the depths of a waterhole, mum would actually have to push you up with her nose. So I know it has happened a few times where, you know, for whatever reason the female might be disturbed, and she'll have to then move a little bit and then just help the baby get up to the surface. But that's also why, you know, with hippos not being such good swimmers, especially at a young age, it's why you'll often find them on mom's back, so that they're not having to swim. They can just rest on mom's back and breathe very easily from there. The wind is starting to blow everything off the vehicle too. It's getting so strong. So I think what I might actually do is carry on down towards the drainage line. Just see if there's any activity heading back towards the central part of the reserve. Doesn't seem like there is an awful lot happening here, and I think it's just too open at the moment with this wind having picked up so suddenly. There really isn't much shelter around here. You can imagine up here on the dam wall where I'm sitting. It's actually very windy. Place to be. I can definitely see that. I think if I could, I would find a nice sheltered dam somewhere. I would sit there all day with a little picnic blanket and my binoculars and my bird book and my birding app. just kind of soak it in.
Here we are. We are on an expedition. This is the expeditionary force. Behind me, we have seen Tlalamba. We are very excited.
It's day one of the annual South African Guide of the Year competition, and our first foot into this competition this morning is all about tracks and signs.
We're going to call you in one at a time. Just look at it, the information will be there.
Our 5 guides have been tasked by the judges at figuring out who is what is who, and where they go in the bush.
Either Franklin or guinea fowl, but because of the volume of other deposits in the area, we went with guinea fowl.
Detailing the surrounding that you need to look out for tracks. The details is very important.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Well, we are at a tree where there was 2 hornbills. They've flown away and we're waiting for them to come back again because it looks like they're prepping a nest. So there's like a little hole in this tree and they were going in and out. And so what they're going to be doing is lining the nest now. It's still early season, so they do the lining at the moment and then make it all nice and soft in there, and then eventually the female will go in and then the male is going to seal her inside that hole. He's going to make it so that there's a little mud layer and then a slight gap between the mud where the beaks can go in and out, but that big predators can't shove their feet in there, like things like African harrier hawks or even genets and civets and the likes. And so just the beaks of the hornbills, and he'll then fly back and forth to feed her while she incubates. And then once that's gotten to that point and they hatch and they kind of a little bit bigger and they can actually use their own beaks and to defend themselves, then she breaks herself out and comes and then starts helping the male with feeding them. So it's all that time of the year now where we're going to start seeing a lot of this kind of prep going on. Nest prep is an interesting thing. You see it with the raptors at the moment, so warbugs, eagles, tawny eagles, they're all nesting or prepping the nests at the moment to start laying. And then you'll start to see the smaller birds as the summer goes on, so their nests start to come through. Because of the incubation period of the eggs and the raising of the chicks in some birds can be as little as 20 days, 28 days. They don't need to prep as far in advance. So you'll see generally the size of the bird will dictate how far in advance for the summer season they start to prep nests and start to incubate. Generally because, well, incubation times and raising of those chicks is much longer. Unfortunately, I can't see where the hornbills went. The last time I saw them, they flew down towards the dam. You can see the hole there. They flew down towards the dam, and I was hoping they were going to kind of pick up whatever it was that they wanted and then bring it back to this nest itself. But it seems as though that is not the case. Although I can hear them. I don't know if it's the same hornbills, but I can hear hornbills calling down towards the dam.
Radio's dead.
Oh, your radio is dead. Don't worry. Wait, now which one was the one that I used that was dead? Because I also, my battery keeps dying on my radio, and I think same for Morgan. Try that one. So I'm just going to try and sort Morgan out. Otherwise he can't hear anything, and that's never ideal for a cameraman to not be able to hear. Working.
I'll see.
Should be working. I think that's the right one. It seems good. Oh, well, I'm so glad, Morgan. I'm so glad I could be of service to you. I feel like I'm going to be your... What do they call it? The guy that looks after the band?
Manager?
No, not the manager. No, please. That would be far too much title for me. I mean, we both know that I'm the skivvy. Or there's a name for it. The triangle player. Oh, goodness. Morgan reckons that I'm going to be playing triangle for their band. Tristan, the triangle player, apparently, for Marief's and Morgan's marimba band. But yes, I'm not so sure I enjoy this idea. But there's a name for it. For the guy that does all the...
Triangulist.
No, not the triangulist. You're so full of nonsense, you know that. Anyway, let's carry on. Morgan is obviously feeling still full of beans this morning, as you can tell. No hornbills, Morgan. Let's see what else we can go and find. Alright, I'm going to carry on and see if there's anything last minute. In the meantime, let's send you across to Tessa, who probably will end up taking us all home for the drive. Well, sorry everybody, another technical difficulty. Feels like that's what I say more than I talk about wildlife these days. But anyway, you're back with us. I'm sure Tessa's got a problem with Wendy, so we'll see where she is, and hopefully we can help her. Oh, it's kudu, Morgan. Oh, very exciting. Please don't jump off the seat like that. You just, I know it's exciting, but calm down. No, exactly. This is, well, we've got Tibet in the background, but I mean, it's definitely not as good as the camouflage shot we had earlier. Morgan is saying to me that this is not, it's pooping though, Morgan. I mean, there's some element of not ideal in this. It's been one of those mornings where nothing's quite worked out. The hornbills didn't arrive at the nest. Marief's was there, but not quite there. It could have been camouflaged, and these could have pooping. The only thing that did work was the early this morning. You're right. We started off well. It's a slow deterioration as things have warmed up this morning. Anyway, nice to see some kudu on quarantine. Not very often we get to see them out in the clearings like this. So always a treat when they're around and kind of out in the open. I think they are beautiful animals. So I always enjoy when we get to see them. I love their ears. Massive ears in relation to the size of their body. It's actually interesting to see a lot of trees are starting to sprout now. Even though we haven't had good rains, there's definitely a slight change happening. The marula trees are all pushing little leaflets out now. So I think we're going to see a lot more greenery in the next little bit, and we get one thunderstorm with a decent amount of rain, and I say like 10-15 mils, it's going to be green overnight. Oh, look at that. There's a wonderful shot. You wanted camouflage? I've delivered camouflage, Morgan. You see, man of the people, or man of the camops. Skivvy, slave for you, that's what I would say. There's a little sunbird that just flew past. I just want to see what that is. Anyway, it is that time of the day where we need to say goodbye to all of you. Hopefully you had a good morning with us and enjoyed the various things that were out and about. It was quiet at times, but we at least got some spots, and hopefully this afternoon we'll get him a little bit better. So from all of us, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we shall see you this afternoon on our sunset safari.